Welcome, everybody, back to another recording of our Better Business, Better Life podcast with Jeni Clift. And today I'm really excited to introduce Renee Wingfield. I'm just going to read off my brief here. Renee is an artist, an entrepreneur, a mum, and a semi-retired trapeze artist. So, Renee, I'll get you to do a quick intro before we get into our best professional and best personal. But tell me about, we just had a quick chat. You grew up on a farm. How on earth did you end up as a trapeze artist?
That's a question that I sometimes find myself answering. Um, I grew up in the most pristine, beautiful place called Bremer Bay in Western Australia, part of the Fitzgerald National Biosphere. Technically, it's not remote, but it is pretty much the southern tip closest to Esperance. So it's pretty quiet. I had like 3 kids in my year at school. We had 30 kids in our pre-primary, primary school
Wow.
totally. So it's a small farming community that's fishing and farming. And I think one of the things that's such a benefit of being a farm kid is wide open spaces and nothing but free time. You know, growing up in the 80s is just we had AABC, that was pretty much it. And so you make your own fun. And I actually had a terrifying fear of heights. And so I'd push myself to climb things. I nearly fell out of the Gloucester tree as a kid. And so I would constantly try things to climb. And then, one thing led to the other, and I wound up going to school in a place in Albany, and I wound up in gymnastics because it was physical and bored, not very good at gymnastics. And my mum put me in a theatre and circus recreational program because there were 4 choices, and I definitely am not a dancer. And that was at 9. And so at the time there was lots of community funding, so I got the opportunity to do lots of shows. I timed out in that sort of practice at about 14 when I discovered soccer, became a referee. I only been my referee in WA for quite a long time. Left that when I fractured my spine. I was at uni, which was a fun time. Don't run on hard ground sideways for 30 hours a week in male games where you've got to run 10 plus Ks in that time. And so when I had to have all my reconditioning done, my then physio said, you've got to do something, you've lost all your core muscles. How about yoga? And of course, being the uneducated farm kid who'd never been anywhere at that stage, I said, yoga's for hippies, what else you got? And he's like, well, that's not up to me. And I said, I did trapeze as a kid, maybe I could try that. And he's like, that's a great idea, just don't fall off. So I found the one circus school at the time, and still at uni. And then 12 months later, I found myself graduated from uni running that circus school, which was then Cirque Berserk, and is now the Western Australian Circus School, Circus WA now. Sorry, it's gone through a couple of naming conventions, which set me on the path to start Fliptease and travel the world and train in China and acquire many, 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 many more injuries and many more experiences.
Yes. What an amazing journey. And all from the age of 9 and trying to cure your own fear of heights. Amazing. So I'll get you to share a professional and a personal win, and then I'll get you to share a bit more about your business and what you do.
Well, there's a couple going on at the moment. Number one, we've just submitted a major business plan for our second business, which I would love to share at another time, which is completely left field of where we are now, but is in line with my personal mission of a big, bold, beautiful life, in a journey to make the world more fun and safe. From an artist point of view, one of my favorite things that I've done in the last couple of years, we did. It's going to sound so silly. So I've worked as a mermaid professionally for like 14 years. It's one of my many nom de plumes as part of Fringe World here. So dubious title of Queen of the Mermaids. And I always wanted to have a mass migration. So we did a mass migration of mermaids here in Western Australia at Coogee, pristine. We had 78 mermaids rock up, all different communities, like representation from anywhere we possibly could. And so we have the Australian record for most mermaids on a beach. So that was a huge win. It's not a shiny like profiteering. In fact, we lost money, but there was something really magical about all these incredible different bodies, all different spaces, culminating to flop around on the beach in 32 degrees on this like pristine beach. And I just felt this, this together moment of like, it took 14 years to get this, to have trust from the community, to have appetite from clients, and to get the joy. And 1,000 people rocked up to see it. And we made like 4 different
Wow.
new services. It was insane. So we're just about to release that for the next one for next year, and we really want to beat the world record, which is I think 300 or 327 held in China. So one day, but it's just those silly little, gamified fun things that you can physically see and people get excited for.
And you make my life feel so boring. How on earth did you come up with that idea of a mass gathering of mermaids?
Uh, Look, the mermaid community is pretty unique. I literally fell into it not by training or anything like that. I mean, I guess as a Western Australian kid, we spend most of the time in the water, as a young child in the ocean. But I saw this image of, I think it's the original Peter Pan of Mermaid Cove. It's an black and white image, and there's like 10 mermaids on the beach. It was shot somewhere in LA. It's all completely falsified, and I just went, "That's really cool. Like, what does that look like now? Like, what does a real life moment of that nostalgia and hope look like now in a modern world?" And I just sort of kicked it around. And originally I was like, oh, maybe we can do ocean cleanup, which is something I'd really like to have in that give back component of these kind of community events. Um, but then I just got down to the really basics, and the basics are just about a moment of suspension of disbelief and being lost, because they're few and far between. Like film does art does this so well, but like, why does Santa still exist? Why does the Tooth Fairy still? We need those moments to be connected, and culture is about sharing moments, and that's what we've built so many of our experiences around.
And it's so true. I'll share one day with you the story of how I accidentally told my older son that the Easter Bunny wasn't real, not realizing that at the
Oops.
age of 11 he still believed.
Mm.
And so that was a, Mother of the Year moment. But when I look at Christmas, my kids are now adults, and I look back on those early days of them and believing in Santa and believing in the Easter Bunny and all of those things and the Tooth Fairy, and it's just that magical wonder that when you don't, and your little one's 3. um, you know, we don't have that now. Christmas, kids are spread around the world, and often it's just Nick and I, and it just doesn't have that same magical feel of wonder. So you live in a pretty amazing space in that sort of art and artistic and performing world. But tell me about Flip Tees. What is it that you actually do? Because you said earlier you have 80 people on your books
Yeah,
now.
so we have approximately 80 artists and makers. Western Australia's a small market, so everyone's a freelancer, and our business is significantly seasonal. So we have a very broad range of circus performers, variety performers, just uniquely talented people in very special niches that don't fit anywhere. I always kind of joked we're like a stable of misfits that can be frocked up really well. Um, and
What a great place to be.
Yeah, I love it. Never do anything expected. It's fun, but do it well. Um, so just kind of figuring that out, and that was certainly my story as an artist. Is like I was always too tall, or too tall, too short, wrong colored hair, whatever. I was like, I'll just make my own vehicle and book myself. And so, over that time, so at the beginning, up until COVID, Fliptease was very much my vehicle to have the big, bold, beautiful life that I wanted. And I got a lot of that. In fact, I did everything that I sought after except perform off a hot air balloon, which is still on my list. Hence semi-retired. You've got to keep these things open. But I did perform with a flying carousel horse at a major event maybe 12 months ago. I've wanted to do that for a long time. And there were little girls at the window screaming, hitting the windows because they saw a flying horse with a showgirl on the back. But, why not?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so flip tea is sort of when the COVID hit, flip tea, I realized that I I really felt really strongly that live experience should be a significant part of any cultural experience. And even though there was this huge push to go online, I really felt even more push to make sure that moments of connection were really established and that we really wanted to focus on that. So our mission essentially is to spread joy through live experiences and shared moments. That's Flip Teaser's mission. Um,
So how was your business affected through COVID? Because WA was locked down, like your borders were closed, but you didn't have the lockdowns that other places in Australia did. So were
oh,
those
buddy,
performances still going ahead, or I'm
let's
kind of a little
let's unpack
confused
that,
about
shall we?
how it. No, no, no. I'm actually interested because I know, you really couldn't leave, or if you did, you couldn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
We certainly couldn't get into WA, but my perception is that kind of life went on still as normal-ish.
Yeah. Okay.
But were live performances still happening during COVID?
Let me give you the really fast timeline as we experienced it, and for anyone listening, uh, this state is privileged in the fact of location with, the
Oh,
perfect place
you're
for a
so,
zombie
yeah,
apocalypse.
yeah.
We're a wealthy mining state. We deliver a huge amount of money to the economic hub. We had a very strong leader over that time,
Mm,
who was very definitive in his decisions. And we also had a lot of, we're a very tight community, even though, we're a big state, there's actually not a lot of people here. So people are
yeah,
pretty tight and supportive.
yeah. And I
So,
think through that isolation, a very resilient population, and you've kind of got to make things work for you because it's not easy. Like, Sydney, Melbourne are an hour away, but Sydney or Melbourne to Perth is a long way.
oh yeah, yeah. And there were some serious, um, I don't know if anyone recalls, but there was massive shipping breakdowns over that time with
Mm,
fires and floods. And there's only one line into Australia on one rail. Like, there's some interesting things going. Anyway,
hmm.
short timeline.
And we don't want to get political, but I'm just interested in, the live performance and how that changed, I guess, through
So,
COVID.
very simply, we went down in March, and I watched one of my biggest.
This is
Well, what
March
was
2020.
yeah, yeah. So we
Yep.
managed to get our Fringe Festival in. It was eerie. So we finished Fringe Festival. Everything people just stopped coming out because they saw it on the wall. But we saw the couple of performers and I sitting in the pleasure garden, still wet from being in the tank, performing to no one, going, "This is going to go sideways. We can all see it." I called a couple of clients trying to get their ideas, and then by mid March, it was like everything was down. And we'd lost all our revenue, and at that stage fortunately I had very little overhead. It was just me. My husband was able to work full time, so we weren't really at risk,
Yep.
personally as a family, apart from the ongoing fear of what the hell is going on.
And you weren't alone
um,
there.
yeah, like everyone else, but also going, we're
Yeah.
also in the safest place with a rich economy with amazing services here.
Yep.
Second thing that happened is I fell pregnant in the first for 3 weeks, and I couldn't go to a hospital, and I had such intense morning sickness and migraines. We were so worried to go to the hospital because we were told that we couldn't conceive, so we didn't know what it was. That I was like, well, I mean, they're pregnant, or I have a brain tumor, something's going on. Maybe it's just like, who knows, right? Anyway, it turns out pregnant. So that's good for me.
Good timing, I must
Good
say.
timing. I would have been, it's hilarious because I would have been doing like 60 shows in that first 2 months, personally, and there's just no way that would have happened. So all that was going, I was just trying to we had some really great clawback procedures in some of our cancellation policies. So I managed to get a bunch of cancellation fees without significant costs because a lot of them were local government and compassionate companies. So I was able to pay out a significant amount of my artists to make sure that they were able to live. So,
To
in spite
survive,
of the
yeah.
advice of my then advisor, I'm like, if I don't have artists, we don't have a business. So we just got to do what we can, and we're
Hmm.
okay. June came along, so I'm still calling my clients because local government, especially, everyone's shattered, trying to make it work. Everyone's cancelling events. No one knows what's going on, and just trying to be supportive. I came up with two really unique products. I have literally these giant bubbles, like inflatable bubbles, which are known as Zorbs. And I just said, hey, I know you're doing all these driveway gigs like everyone for mental health. why don't we stick performers in bubbles and walk them walk them past these spaces? That way there's no contact issues. No one has to wear a mask. People can see their faces. So we did it, and that was, a significant amount of sales, and we could keep performing even when there were lockdowns because there were limitations. They weren't full lockdowns for a lot of the cases. They were more reduced capacity implementation and masks. So, and then, we had some clients who were just like, how do we put you in the back of trucks? I'm like, yeah, can I roller skate off the back? So we got Main Road's permission to attach a bunch of us, like Back to the Future, with a full sound system on the back of a pickup truck and drive around local councils. And that was a significant contract. And there was only so many people because I've got extensive risk management in being a trapeze artist, and I'm also an advanced license rigger and have worked with some really great people. So there was not really anyone else they could come to, and we already had these relationships. So that's like August. We are closed down, nothing is happening. And then I start getting these phone calls from some of my clients going, hey, we don't think we're going to be able to get our Eastern States providers here. Do you want to come in and have a meeting? And I was like, yeah, I do. So
What a silly
suddenly,
question. Oh,
suddenly
no,
I,
no, a bit
uh,
busy.
exactly. So I just saw the writing on the wall and went, I reckon I've got 2 years of no competition. And that was right. And so we managed to scale with almost 4 times the size we were at the beginning of COVID. And I had no
Wow.
employees, no office. Probably had 6, 7 artists. And then I joined EO in that August.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, so
and
you were new to EO when I met you as a trainer. Yeah,
yes, I was pregnant. That was my first session.
that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so it was just like we went from literally the business is going to die. And that was okay because it was just me. It was no risk to make a choice. You've got this massive opportunity in front of you. What do you need to do? And I started by hiring my project manager, who's now my 2IC and integrator, Natalie, who's phenomenal. And then we also, because we're an unfunded arts company, and I don't play in the funding sphere typically because I think it's really valuable for arts organisations that do need that assistance. I need an attitude check on this, but that's okay. um, and so we were able to get some of the new apprenticeship money, which substituted roles for training. And so that gave me a heap of scaling opportunity and reduced risk to bring on full-time staff. And then from there, we just went bang. Bless you.
Sorry, I'll have to get that bit edited out.
That's okay. Don't even
17.49. I did
don't
it
even
yesterday
worry.
too, and I was doing another one every so often. I just get these coughing attacks. Okay, sorry. So you were.
So we managed to procure training funding instead of project funding, which was
Okay.
amazing and gave us, and that was through another EO member actually, and my coach connected us, my peer coach, and so that was phenomenal. And I would have done another one had I could find more staff. Um, and then it was all about pipeline, and I realized that I had a couple of scalable products in our Christmas market. We do beautiful Busby Berkeley styling, giant roving presents, giant roller skating baubles. We are joy bringers. Like that's our role. So we make these ridiculous Christmas spectacles that are about suspension of disbelief. And I'm not sure when this is going to edit, but we've deployed Santa from rooftops. We've had him. He's going to be coming in on a rickshaw. Another one. He's coming on a jet ski. Like it's all about spectacle and
Right.
that moment of magic. And
I'd
that's what
love to
stood us
see
forward.
into your store area.
Oh, it's a mess. I mean, it's not. We have so we also managed to, with a lot of support, we procured our first premises this year. The price of operational floor here is triple what it was prior to COVID. So managed to negotiate with a building tenancy for a really great lease. So we fill out 250 squares plus 3 desks. So also got 2 full-time plus me plus our wardrobe team member, and we're going to probably have 2 more by the end of this financial year. So we've filled the space.
I can imagine. Yeah, I can
Yeah,
just imagine the
yeah,
wardrobe space.
yeah.
So coming out of COVID, you said that you knew you had 2 years without competition. What happened coming out of there? What was your strategy, I guess, and then what sort of unfolded as borders started to open up and people started to travel more?
Relationships is what I was focusing on because one, um, our job as an arts company is to solve our clients' problems.
Hmm.
And, we're WA again, wealthy market, high brand space as well, because, I can't think we're like the most number of millionaires per head of population in Australia. Could be Southern Hemisphere now, I don't know. So there's very much want for high end brand space. And you have to achieve that, you need significant trust with clients and stakeholders. And I actually call them, we're all stakeholders because in many ways we've grown partnerships between us. So
Hmm.
for our clients to succeed, yes, there's probably some other unique operators out there. But the cost now to bring them over is so
Oh,
significant. It's like
expensive.
3 or 4 times, and we're able to provide in-person value. Those relationships really matter. Like, I know I've had some from my clients for 12, 14 years now. Like, they've been with me on the whole journey. So it's always about people,
Yeah,
especially when you make magic.
yeah. People do business with people they like and they trust and all those sort of things.
100%.
So when do people come to you? Do they have an idea and they are looking for somebody to bring it to life, or are they saying, "We want an event, tell us what you can
It's a
do"?
it's a bit of a mixture, and so we don't provide events as such. So we're entertainment, essentially end-to-end entertainment solutions in a very niche space. We don't do musicians, although we will collab with the musicians. We don't really provide dancers, although we collab with dance companies
Hmm.
into our spaces. I think what we really are defining are is like we're a creative production house for high-end spectacles where we use our own intellectual property and caliber unless we're presented with a brief. And we have done some outstandingly fun conceptual briefs with some of our long-term clients. Include, we did a massive activation in partnership with DGPR, Lottery West, West Coast Eagles. I'm probably missing someone here. To produce the ninth lottery ball in 2018. And that was we were just given a concept saying there's going to be this much and we need 9 3-meter helium balloons moved around an oval. Here's a budget. And so, 3 weeks turnaround, you've got to work out how to deal with a class gas in a high risk environment in front of 55,000 people with, one of the biggest funders in Australia on a day when there's 4 events and you've got to hire 23 artists that you don't have at the time and
No
costume
pressure.
them. No pressure. Oh, and you only get 2 rehearsals and you're not allowed to run on the grass because it was Optus and very, like it's very sport orientated. So we
Oh, good
did
God.
it.
Okay.
It was well received. I'm pretty sure I went a little grey, but it was so much fun. So much fun. I'm like, we joke about spectacle, like especially on-field activation. On-field activation is like passion. It doesn't come along very often. Budgets aren't generally what people think, but man, they're
Yeah.
fun. And I always joke about, cool, so we're going to do another circle show, which is literally let's run something out in the middle, do a big circle, and then run
And
back.
then
How do we do that in a count of 8?
so how much time goes into planning something like that that lasts for what, just a few minutes?
Oh, we've had things that have lasted like 15 seconds. It completely depends. Completely depends on the stakeholders, crowd. Playing to a crowd of 55,000 is completely different than doing a private event. We had a private event at Crown, the presidential suite, obviously VIP, high caliber, very wealthy client, 60 guests. How we played
Yeah.
there and the planning that goes there, there's a lot more personal attention to detail and client liaison in that environment, as opposed to dealing with 6 stakeholders in a
Mm.
large stadium. So not everything is perfectly scalable because a lot of our stuff is niche, but the process is quite the scoping, the delivery, the exiting, that's all the same process. It's just that there's less of it when there's 60
Yeah.
people. It just means you've just got to be 100% true. And then some of those bigger projects, like, I mean, we only had 3 weeks to turn around that one. But at the time, I didn't have 60 shows in 40 days, and I didn't have staff. It was just me and an assistant at the time, and great stakeholders that I could ask questions for. And then I literally just on the phone, on the phone, on the phone, on the phone, and then cast. So completely varies. We have some bookings that are in play for 2026 at the moment. So, people
Wow.
can be
Okay.
really organized, especially if they're major tourism or,
Yeah. Big.
not that we're doing it, but I would like a World Expo that happens way
Yep.
out in advance, or, so Expo is actually really organized on average. That could be a year out. We've also done events with less than 48 hours notice, but they
Notice.
tend to be smaller. Yeah, sometimes we
Or
get a
somebody
client.
decides today that they'd like a mermaid at their birthday party on a Friday night. Yeah.
And tomorrow is a hard no because we are completely booked out. But yes, it is.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so
Well,
next
my
time,
husband's got a big birthday coming up in December in Bali, so perhaps we can chat about doing something then.
sure, let's bring a whole pod. And we can put those giant inflatable balls out there with some light up characters, very Met Gala.
I'm sure he would love that.
Oh, so funny. It's been wild. One of the reasons I love being an artist, and between the artist and entrepreneur, especially in the live performance space, one, people vastly underestimate the artist. Like they never assume, unless they've known me for a long time, I'm the owner and the creative. They just, your function and piece. Everyone's pretty nice to us. We've never really had any issues. But the amount of conversations and networks that you wind up with is just phenomenal. And I'll never forget the piece of advice that I had from one of my early mentors, which is never trust an artist because they mix with all sorts of people.
Oh God, I can only imagine. Yeah. Hmm.
It's been
Better
fun.
leave that one alone.
Yeah, I've signed many NDAs, I cannot tell.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. One of the things that we love in from my EOS practice is process and about doing things the same way again. How do you manage that? Because there must be some sort of repeatability within your business, whether it's around, I guess, safety or.
Oh,
But
yes.
what does that look like for you?
Well, I'd love to show you my Monday spreadsheet, and because our booking process from scope to end to review and invoicing and then further follow up could be as long as 40 steps. Like how we make toast, right?
Yeah.
That early
Hmm.
example. So again, some of those steps aren't always in it, depending on the risk level, but the steps are exactly the same thing,
Yeah.
inquiry or lead, physical phone call, scoping, ask the question, who, what, when, why. What does this look like if it's successful? What does it look like when it's a failure? The sales process is essentially the same, and the gathering of information is really critical. And then there's a rescope. Some are more complicated than others. They might take 3 or 4 meetings. That's okay. And then it's going through project management, casting, packing, production, resourcing, ordering, executing is often the simplest thing because
Yeah.
everything's done then. And then, making sure everything comes back and is washed. Not fun. I can tell you on a 40-degree day, that's not a fun day for anyone.
Mm, hadn't thought of
And then,
that.
yeah, and then post follow up with stakeholders, performers, clients, returns, invoicing, follow up, checked for next year. The process is the same. The bit that I
Yeah.
really struggled with is until I wasn't very good at standardizing systems, like standardized, especially pay rates for artists, because I'm very passionate about making sure that artists get opportunities and are paid properly and are paid promptly, because it's something that media pushes a lot, that, the poor starving artist mentality, which I am not a part of. So I wanted to make sure that was in place. And once my 2IC and my talent manager joined me, we just have a really bulletproof process. So I don't touch that stuff. I just scope the event now. They budget it with the
Yeah.
standards that we agreed on that get reviewed every 6 to 12 months. And suddenly it was easier. And then we
Yeah.
built it. The system started to build itself because we work with autonomy in that space and we talk to each other. And we have built that system since I had systems in place that were okay. And then we continually built them over the last couple of years. We have built 4 systems and broken every single one because our growth from COVID has been like consecutively 17 to 25%. And really, whenever we rebuild the next thing, we're like, oh, 10%. That's probably all we're going to see with an increase. No, no, that didn't happen. So we're really good at stress testing. We
Which is a
just,
good thing. Growth is good. Growth,
yeah, growth's
sustainable,
amazing.
continued growth,
Yes,
not growth.
yes.
Well, and but growth that that breaks a system, that it forces you to do things better, is also good.
Yeah, our park list is, we use the start, stop, stuck, and a lot of our stops is like, this system doesn't work anymore. What can we do? Are we getting to the point where we have to completely create a unique system? My thing is like, not yet, because we haven't hit this margin, and my trends are going, will this dreaded R word in Australia affect us, and how that will affect us? I have theories, but I want to make sure that that we're stress testing even those projections, because the opposite could be true. And that was certainly my experience when we started Flip in 2006. We were in a recession then in Western Australia, and we went banana. Like, we were able to quit our jobs at the time and be full-time artists within 2 years, even in the middle of a recession. And everyone's going, why? I'm like, because people are drinking and people want entertainment, and they want to be drawn away into a much more exciting world than not having a job or having hopelessness. We're there as shiny objects that provide hope.
So you've probably heard me say this. Routine will set you free. Interesting that and I know you're visionary, as many business owners are. That, but we just have to have those systems in place, and even better is when we have the systems and the routines and somebody else does them. That's my favourite. I still have to do it myself, but making sure there are other people who can do that. I was on my last podcast. We were talking about the current economic climate, and what are you seeing? And most of your work is locally in WA, but the comment from Jason was that there's a bit of reluctance, a bit of delay. Things that would, a year ago would have been, yes, let's do it. Now it's, yes, let's do it, but it might be a month or 2 months before the contract gets signed. So what are you seeing?
I think I'm in a really unique position. One, I've been in the sector for a long time, even as a child. And so I've seen other parts of the building. I personally think that for me in performance industry, the contracts will still stay the same. Yes, there's some of the late standing. Yes, there's changes in budgets and how we access budgets. There's definitely, for what I'm seeing, there's definitely less money in the pipeline for the projects that we used to do. However, I know from recession and watching history, people need art and culture more when times are bad than when they're good. So I foresee that we'll see changes in how money's spent, but it's going to be spent on the same thing in a different way.
Yep.
So, like when I started in the sector, I was working with youth crime prevention using circus skills with kids, like work remotely, worked, great places like Nunanjara, Alice Springs, all those spaces. Crime prevention was a huge thing, or drug-related behaviours. About 10 years ago, all that funding dried up, and guess what funding started to roll out again? Because when things are getting bad, like, people look for escapes. Children doubly so, because
Yep.
things aren't good at home.
So instead
So,
of prevention, they're, after the fact,
yeah,
the
yeah,
police and yeah.
yeah. Don't, go set up a after midnight basketball program instead. If you've got vagrancy on a street, go set up
Give them
some
something to
sport
do.
and have some food. Like,
Yeah.
that's most of the issues. Like, is there enough food at home? Probably not. Is there something to do that's not going to get them hurt or in trouble with someone else? Probably not. Like, it's pretty, it's just going to be spent
It's not that
elsewhere.
hard. Yeah. And
Yeah, and
prevent
we
and
know, yeah, you can spend $5 in arts and culture, and there's a great organization called Culture Counts, and they also run Praxis, which is a reporting diagnostic tool that government uses here a lot. And if you spend $5 on art, in especially physical stuff, you can save $25 in healthcare and crime prevention. So it's a no-brainer. you know? So now we're just getting into that different part of our capacity of like, when we're designing programs, it might be WA Day, it might be telethon, like what are we designing for? Who are we designing for? Who are we inspiring? What is the purpose? And the purpose is spreading joy, making connection.
And it must
And there'll be
be
more.
such a wonderful place to, like, um, I am not an artist in any stretch of any imagination. I always joke that if you want people to leave it and go home at the end of the party, I'll start singing. They will all leave immediately, um, and completely uncoordinated. Um, but for you and your team to be able to perform and just see the joy, it's that instant gratification of having that instant effect on people must be a wonderful place to be.
Yeah, and it's unique for everyone, you know, like we'd have this giant diamond. I don't know if you're a Harry Potter fan, you know, the Quidditch
Mm.
like
Mm.
hoop
Oh
pole. Like
yes,
that there's
yep,
we made some versions of that here. It's called a lollipop lira, because a lot of places we can't rig because there's no facilities. We have a lot of resources in terms of venues here in Western Australia. And we don't have pokies, so there's not actually that much money for entertainment compared to the eastern states. But I wanted to make something fancier, so I made a six-sided princess cut diamond, which I'm happy to send you a photo of. And I was 6 months postpartum. I was like, I just want to make this thing because it was Lifeline, and I knew how much Lifeline had contributed, especially to Western Australia. And they had a diamond ball. I was like, I'll make them a diamond. Like it cost me a fortune. And I remember because it was really the first time that some of the big social events were coming back in 2021 because the like gala balls just weren't happening because no one was buying tickets.
yeah.
And I remember a beautiful group of socialites and Instagrammers walking into the ballroom looking amazing, just amazing. I'm feeling super self-conscious because I'm, not at my best still. I can just get into my costume. I'm still breastfeeding. So I'm like, am I going to milk through this costume? Who knows? And they're squealing like little girls shrieking with delight because there's a fancy lady on a diamond standing 3 meters in the air, pouring champagne, beckoning them over. I'm like, this is what it's about. Like, I know it's completely vacuous, but they're going to remember that for the rest of their lives. I didn't, and this time no one was like filming. It was the moment in COVID where people were actually just happy to be out and
Yeah.
together and sharing these moments, and that's the thrill point.
And I still remember those moments of actually going out and being with people. I remember the earlier times when it was, that time that we went to Tony Robbins in Sydney and there was 3,500 people in a stadium. Do you think we'd ever do that again? Like that we would want to? Hell yeah. At the time, I was like, not so sure. But I remember those moments of first being able to go out and do things and be with other people. And you're right. It's and we remember experiences. We don't remember stuff and things, but we remember
Yeah.
experiences. And for you to be able to provide those is amazing. Now I am going to have to call it here. You and I could talk for hours, and I'm really looking forward to getting back and doing another one of these when you're going to share your new business with us. But let's just finish off with 3 tips, 3 things for you to share with our audience. Things that might be resources, but what are those 3 things you'd love to share?
Um, we spoke about it briefly in our warm up. Read, just read, and read things that make you feel uncomfortable. My goal this year was 80 books, which I'm very close to completing, and it just keeps me out of social media and actually um, digesting ideas, not opinions, at someone else's leisure. Like I'm cultivating um, my own diet the
Mhm.
same way I do in my day to day life. So choose what you're consuming to nurture yourself, especially if you're going after a goal. Joinio. I feel like I say it to everyone. I can't convince artists for some reason. I don't know. And some will be ready. And if you're an artist and you would like my experience, please, because you know it's our ethical duty to be successful in the world and live the life that we want to. And the only way you're going to do that is to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
And then third, mm, oh, let go earlier, especially relationships and people. The couple of big lessons that I had were really, I don't really know how to explain this, but holding on to memories of old relationships that actually weren't true, whether they be employees or friends or just people growing apart, and have that crucial conversation earlier of like, we're not filling each other with, not to use the trite filling with joy, but if you're not good together. If you're not walking away feeling great that you've seen someone in your life, you either have to have the hard conversation where you as in me could be taking up that person's space to find the next best person in their life. And I think with social media, we're not able to separate ourselves as much as we used to. So you don't get that. And I use dating as the thing, as like the dump, the fight, like it's off, it's done.
Yep.
Like time out,
Yeah, you've
let's
still
see
got
each
that
other in 5
connection.
years. You're
Yeah,
stuck. The
yeah.
network is really insidious. And I think that's 10 times harder with friends, or if you employed people that you knew and they worked for you for a really long time. It can eat at you and create a weight that you never really knew you were carrying, because you have a belief on how that relationship is. And when you grow and when you change, people aren't always growing with you or know how to grow with you or want to.
Or want you to
Um,
grow.
and then that was my
Yeah.
big one. And if you ever want to read a really, 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 really great book about, we call it the human crab bucket. There's a Terry Pratchett novel about oh gosh, I can't remember what it is. Anyway, it's in the Discord series. Then he talks about the crab bucket, and crabs will always pull themselves back into trouble and don't want to let anyone go. And families unintentionally can do that. They just, how can they understand? Their job is to keep you safe. Same with
Mm.
friends, keep you safe, keep you close, keep the people around you as close as you can. But it's your responsibility to live your life. There are consequences to living that life, but keep it in mind.
No, that's great. I love that, and I've been through that myself in the last few years of letting go. A long time after I should have, for that feeling of obligation and that sort of thing. And it did not serve me at all. And now that I've done it, I am in a much, much better place. So great share. Well,
Thank
I
you.
am
I
going
wrote,
to stop it. Sorry, go.
oh no, my other thing is write your own template for no, with that obligation in mind. I have like a 3-page document after reading Tribe of Mentors of how I
Hmm.
say no to different people and test them and like put across, and I share it all the time with especially female entrepreneurs who really struggle, and a lot of artists who want to be people pleasing. No is the best word that you
Word.
can learn. Yeah,
One of the workshops that I run, that's actually one of the exercises we get people to practice saying no, because we say yes when we mean no, when we don't want to say yes, but we feel obliged to and get ourselves into
mm,
situations
every
and yeah,
time,
it's
every
just
time.
it's crazy. So, well, I'm going to stop our recording now. Thank you so much, Renee, for your time today. Really loved talking to you, getting to know you. I've known you for a few years through as that EO trainer. Didn't realize it was this long because yeah, you were pregnant, so it must be 3.5 years. But thank you. And as I said, look forward to staying in touch and getting you back on and hearing about your new venture.
Thank you, Jenny.
Okay,
I look forward to listening to the rest of the series.
great. Thank you.